Hey guys, I'm excited yet once again. Another day at the Agent of Change. You're with your host, Darlington Taste. I'm super excited today as we continue to look at the entrepreneurship journeys of different business people. And today in studio, I am joined with Mat Makoni, who is with me. Man, you're looking great. Matthew, how are you?
Thanks a lot, Darlington. How are you?
I like your attire.
Yeah, the suits and sneakers.
Awesome. So we want to know, who is Matthew?
Yeah, so I'm a master of ceremonies.
Okay.
I'd like to call myself an event director,
Okay.
or conference facilitator, or keynote speaker, all those things bundled in one. Basically, my specialty is to host private and corporate events and make those events go well.
Wow, awesome. You know, growing up, nobody ever thinks that, you know, when I grow up, I want to be an MC. I want to be that kind of job, because when we grew up, nobody ever spoke about that type of work. What made you to decide to embark on that journey and choosing that particular profession?
You're absolutely right, because I didn't choose it.
Okay.
I sort of stumbled into it.
All right.
And I was always someone who could speak eloquently and articulately, and I've got a great sense of humor. And so as I grew in the ranks, people would just call and ask me and say, hey, we're having a wedding, why don't you come and say a few words? Started off like, do a speech, say a few words, host a segment. Then eventually someone trusted me and said, hey, why don't you run the whole show?
Wow.
And I did a couple of weddings. And then I remember in about 2008, 2009, I just done a wedding in Bulawayo on a Friday. I flew back into Cape Town on a Saturday to do another wedding.
Okay.
And when the groom was giving the vote of thanks, he just randomly mentioned, you know, I'd like to thank our MC for today, Mat Makoni. You know, he was in Bulawayo yesterday for a wedding.
Okay.
He literally changed at the airport to do this wedding, you know, great dedication, you know. So everyone claps their hands and everyone's happy. And as I'm walking out, a lady walks up to me and she said, so how much do you charge? You must be making lots of money. You know, and I looked at her, what do you mean charge? She's like, do you know that MCs get paid?
Wow.
I was like, what? She's like, yeah, people get paid for what you're doing.
And what were you doing at the time?
I've got a corporate job.
Okay.
I'm a leader in the corporate space. I work for one of the biggest online companies in the world.
Oh, okay.
So I run the South African operation. I'm what they call a site leader. So I've got a day job, and I was doing this really pro bono for friends of friends. And then I realized I could actually get paid for it.
Yeah.
It was a bit too late to call back all the people who had done the job for free. But then I realized I've got a gift.
Yes.
And I'm able to monetize this gift.
Okay.
And so when I started off, it was just small amounts, really, for me to be able at least to dry clean my suit, at least buy a burger on the way home.
Exactly.
And then I started realizing I'm actually really good at this.
Okay.
And I can actually pitch myself at a certain amount, because I've done enough weddings to have enough credibility and enough testimonies of what a great job I've done.
So how long have you been doing it now?
It's been over 10 years.
Over 10 years.
Over 10
so
years.
How did you brand yourself or package the whole thing? Because obviously somebody watching now and they're also doing the same thing, but how did you manage to pull yourself off the ground? Because with that profile that you've already had, how did you brand it and package it?
I think it's about discovering yourself, right? People always say, I want to be an entrepreneur.
Yes.
You know, but I can't figure out what to do. I think within us, innately, we all have a certain gift.
Okay.
And there are certain tools you can use to discover what you're good at. You know, you can do your strength finders, your Myers-Briggs tests, and so forth. And those help you to identify your strengths. But every single person actually knows what they do naturally, and easily, things they can do in their sleep and for free. So for me, I first had to find out, like, am I really great at this? Right? I'm not saying at that time I'm the best in the world, but is this something that I really feel I'm good at? Is this something that resonates with my character? Is this something that adds value to people's lives, right? And when I was in that point where I was really sure, and I could comprehend in myself that this is something I could even do if someone didn't pay me to do it, and I'd actually enjoy it.
Wow.
Then I decided I want to invest my time, I want to invest some effort in educating myself on how do I create a brand around this. And obviously I've been to a million weddings, like we've all been to, and I've seen different people do things differently, but I've always been a people's person.
Wow.
Right? Someone who loves people. People naturally are drawn to me. And so I came up with the brand, the People's MC.
Wow.
Why? Because I go beyond just making an announcement at a wedding.
Okay.
I go beyond just getting a microphone and saying to the DJ, stop, watch me dance. You know, I'm very relational. Right?
Okay.
People love me, I love people. And at the end of the event, people feel like they're really engaged with someone. And so I came up with the brand, the People's MC. And for some reason, that resonated with a lot of people. Because I remember the first couple of weddings, I'll digress quickly here, that I did. I thought the weddings and the events were about me. right?
Okay.
Like I had to be the one entertaining people. I had to be the one cracking the jokes. I had to be the one dancing. And then slowly I started realizing that events are not really about me. I'm just a facilitator. And some people have flown all the way from overseas to come and attend a wedding in Cape Town in the Helderberg. They have not sat on a 16-hour flight so that they can sit in a chair and watch someone talk.
Yeah.
They want to engage, they want to dance, they want to laugh, they want to be a part of the event.
Yes.
So for me, it's always been about the people.
Okay.
If the people go back and they feel like we've had a great event, we were
Yes.
part of it, and we're going to hold the memory of participating in this event, then I've done my job.
Well, your uniqueness is quite great right there. But I want to know, from all this entire journey that you've had, have you ever had any experiences where you felt stuck, you struggled, or what were the failures that you had, and what are the things that you could say, you know, you wish you had learnt this, maybe some stuff that you know now that you feel, had I known this 10 years ago, I could have been at a better place?
Definitely. I think the biggest learning, and for any entrepreneurs watching, I think
Yes.
two things. Number one, know your value and the value of your brand. The moment you start saying, I'm speaking to Darlington, I'm going to charge him 10,000 Rand per hour, right? And then Matthew gives you a call, and you Google Matthew, and Matthew drives, you know, an S500, and then you say, hey, no, my price is actually 25,000 Rand an hour. That inconsistency takes away your credibility.
Okay.
So even when you get a big client who can pay you more, always have a consistent price.
Okay.
Because that gives integrity. When you decide you're going to up your rate, communicate with people, communicate with your partners, communicate with your clients. That way you always have that credibility in the market. But second thing, when it comes to payments, rookie error that I did early on in my start with weddings, and particularly with people, was someone would say to you, I'll pay you this amount before the wedding.
Yes.
And then after the wedding, I'll pay you this amount.
I know that one.
Yeah, so when you started off, you know, you're looking for business, you're trying to grow, and you're like, I'm happy, okay? But when people go to their honeymoons, they will not answer your phone, right? And you spend so much energy chasing payments and chasing people to pay you for work you've already done.
Sure.
You're losing time in investing in the work that's supposed to come. So I'm not saying I've got a hard line about it, but I say to my clients, look, I'm not even looking for a deposit. I'm not looking for you to give me 50, 80% before the job. I'm saying put your deposit of whatever it is. If I'm flying out for destination weddings, I'm doing my first wedding in Austria in a month's time.
Wow, awesome.
And my deposit is the flights to get there. Because the moment the couple pays for the flights, it shows they're serious, right? And then you tell them 5 days before the event, you can pay it, right? So you allow your clients to be able to stagger their payments, whatever makes them feel comfortable. You don't want to put them under pressure and say, hey, I want 90% of my amount now, right? But what you don't want to do is to carry on the admin of chasing payments after the event is done, because that just takes away from your productive time.
Oh, okay. But when you look at the work that you are doing at the moment, who are the people that you actually say is your clientele base?
Mostly I deal with destination weddings. I partner with some of the biggest wedding planners in the country. And most of my clients are people who are flying into South Africa, actually. Some from the UK, some from the US, some coming from all the way from Australia, and they're choosing venues in South Africa to have weddings. Okay. So, you know, in this area, in the Western Cape, particularly in the Helderberg area, you've got some of the best wine farms in the world, right? Your Cavalli estates and all the sorts. And sometimes some of these people who are coming are looking for an MC that is able to bridge cross cultures, who is able to connect people from different geographies, people from different walks of life. My last wedding that I did 2 weeks ago was a Tanzanian who was marrying someone from Kenya.
Wow.
And they live in Australia. So you can imagine.
Wow.
It was such a richly multicultural
So when you
event.
do those kind of weddings, do you also give them advice in terms of their wedding planning, and do you also get involved, or you just focusing on the MC?
My services are end to end. Most people have got a wedding planner. A wedding planner has got a running order. The MC comes into the running order and says to the couple, right, we go from here to here to here to here. That is a great sequence, but given the vision that you have for your event, it might actually make more sense to move this little bit and put it over here. It might make a little bit more sense if you have the father and daughter dance first, and then after that, the father hands the bride to the groom so that they have their first dance. So that's your role, right? And also to just sense check a couple of things and tell them, I know you're saying your dad is going to speak for 3 minutes.
Yeah.
In reality, it's going to take him 3 minutes to walk from his seat to get to the mic and cry a little bit.
That's right,
So
yeah.
you always need someone who's actually invested in the job, because the wedding planner, as much as they do the running order, the actual administration of the day is usually the MC. And you're able to say, hey, we need to move this around. In theory, this is actually what happens, but in practice, this is actually what happens on the day.
And then what do you do in terms of your uniqueness? Because looking at the other MCs that are already out there and that you have already dominated in the market space, how do you find yourself competing with them? And then what's your uniqueness between them? And then why should a business choose you over them?
I think a couple of things. One of them is I'm not competing with anyone, just for clarity. Just for clarity. I think if you put yourself into the market where you feel you're competing with people, you've, don't know if you've read the book Red Ocean, Blue Ocean. Okay. You've basically gone into the blue ocean. Yes. Where there are 1 million people, right? All right. 1 million fish in that blue ocean. And you'll never survive. If you go into the red ocean, no one wants to go into the red ocean. You're all by yourself. It's tough there. But you know what? You've got your niche. So people have their different styles. I come from a corporate background, so I'm extremely professional. I'm well-traveled, so I'm able to handle events that are at that level. Right? Okay. And so any people who are looking for destination weddings which need someone who's able to handle international clientele, who are able to administer high-level events, that's really my forte. Right? And so you don't find too many MCs actually in that space, right? Okay. Because it's a mixture of trying to handle the dynamics of entertaining people, but also the dynamics of having a high-end event for very important people. So there's a fine balance between making sure that that event is administrated really well, but making sure that people also have a good time. So I think that's the first thing. And then the second thing, from a practical perspective, I think every MC has got their own style, right? I'm an orator, as you can tell. Okay. If you look at my credentials, I'm a Southern African speaking champion. I was a national speaking champion in school. Currently a president of a Toastmasters club. So my style is to speak. Yes. And because I'm well-traveled.
You're born for it.
I'm born for it, right? There's some people who are great at dancing, right? And that's their thing, and that's their group and their niche. There's some people who are great at doing accents, right? There's some people who are great at just navigating the cultural norms and things like that. You know, so for me, I'm an orator, I'm a storyteller. I help to get people engaged, come up with really brilliant jokes, really around the event and around the clients, and that's something that's given within a gift. So another MC who's maybe watching my video can listen to a joke that I made at an event 5 years ago. If they go to an event and say my joke, it will not give the same effect, right? And I won't repeat that joke, because when I meet Darlington and Darlington's wife, they have their own story. They met at a different place. Darlington begged 20 times before she said yes. So I've got a different joke every time, right? So that really is my strength, and it's not a strength that can be easily replicated.
Yeah, no, I like it, because I can tell from the energy that you have, that you're trying to take over my job. I can see. But anyway, because I can see the energy is kind of like requesting to be sitting on this seat. But I also want to know, who are your role models? Who are the people that you looked at and you say to yourself, you know what, I like what this person is doing, and what have you learned from them?
There's a guy called Dr. Miles Monroe, the late, was a big mentor in my life digitally. Okay. Because he was someone who had one message. Okay. One main message, and he just got a periphery of ideas, but a lot of them revolved around one key message. And obviously he was a doctor, he wrote books on the kingdom and things like that, but he drove within me the idea to focus on one thing. Right? Be really good at that one thing. Wow. Right? And focus at that. Right? When you try and have every single client, do every single event, you know, get every single invoice, you're all over the place. Yeah. You know, I had to be comfortable in my skin to say, there are certain events that I don't do. And I'm not offended when I see someone else get that job. Right? There are certain clients that will not opt for me, and I'm okay with that. There are certain wedding planners who opt for other people. I'm okay with that. But for those that are buying my type of product, the ones that are looking to get what I want, I have invested so much around my skill set, and that is focus. So Miles Monroe has been absolutely inspirational for me.
Excellent. So I want to know, Matt, what change have you actually brought about within your personal life and within the community? And looking at you as an agent of change, what change have you brought about in the community with this MC business that you're doing?
I think I like to term it impact.
Impact, okay, yes.
Yeah, so you'll see on my website one of the keynotes that I do is called Impact-Focused Individuals,
Okay.
Impact-Driven Societies,
Yes.
And Impact-Driven Organizations. When I started off emceeing, I realized that this skill set that I have and the model that I followed can actually be replicated across different skill sets.
Okay.
Right? And most of the times when you'd go to an event, you'll find that there's opportunity for people who can, for instance, play drums, people who can say poems, people who can DJ, to also be part of that event. But sometimes you've got people who come particularly from disadvantaged communities who may not have enough education and enough mentoring for them to be able to go through the process of identifying that they need to be able to tell what they're good at. They need to be able to create a website and to put themselves out there, and all those steps that, you know, take you on the entrepreneurship journey. So a couple of years ago, I partnered with a couple of friends with an organization called Origins Africa.
Okay.
And what we basically do is we're in the Helderberg area. And if you know the Helderberg area, this is where Somerset West is and Stellenbosch is. But neighboring those communities are communities like Zola and Luande, where there are a lot of young people who are very skilled, but who don't have any mentoring. And what we've started to do is to bring some of these in to the events that we do. You know, because we want them to actually view and see you in action. You know, so they learn a lot more when they're actually invited to the event. They actually see you do what you're doing, your level of professionalism and so forth. And just 2 years ago, one of our first mentees, I partnered an event with him. And you can imagine he was shaking and his voice was stuttering. But the moment he heard his voice for the first time on a microphone, he was able to gain confidence. And so you always need someone who's able to give you that hand and come and say, hey, do you know what? I'm willing to actually bring you into my event. So over the last 2 years, we've had about 4 or 5 people who now have actually launched into their own sphere, doing their own things in the arts sector, looking for their own gigs, and they've got their own followings. But we're able to say, at least we played a part in teaching and mentoring them to do what we do. And the cycle is they themselves, once they become really good at it, they must go back into their communities and also go and find other young talented people and bring them in. So that is basically how we are becoming agents of impact or of change within our environment.
Within your community. Wow, awesome. Thank you so much. And then for the viewers that are watching today, what are the key things that you may just give them as advice? And I want you just to advise that young person, those millennials that are just coming up, or the other MCs that might be watching you today, how do they brand themselves? How do they package? Or whatever advice that you may have, looking in your camera directly, and you can just give them your last piece of advice.
Definitely. My advice would be, from the top, like I said, identify what you're really, really good at. Right? What am I really, really good at? Some of you may not follow the NBA. I'm a big NBA fanatic. When an NBA team is being set up, you've got a point guard, you've got a shooting guard, you've got a center. Everyone has got their particular role. Maybe the center's role really is only to grab the rebounds, make sure that they box out on free throws, make sure that they set solid screens, but they have to do that at an elite level. They have to do that really, really well. They may not be the person who's on the cover of the magazine, but the team does not succeed if that person doesn't know what they do really, really well. So some of you may think I'm going to be a rapper. Think about it. Are you really, really good at it? Search yourself. What do I do easily, naturally, you know, without much effort that people appreciate and people like? Once you identify that thing, the next thing you need to do is you need to do a little bit of market research and think, how do I use this skill set and monetize it? Maybe it means you need to partner with certain people in the industry. Maybe you need to come and do a podcast. Maybe you need to be interviewed. Maybe you need to look for event managers. Maybe you need to create a website and a brochure, you know, and then you invest time into seeing, how do I put myself into the market? After you've done that, you've created relationships, the next thing is you actually have to be willing to start from the bottom. You know, social media makes everyone feel like you need to start from the top. You start with 1 million views. You start by driving a GLC. You start by having 500,000 people at your conference. No, be willing to start with 2 clients. Be willing to start with a wedding with only 10 people. Be willing to start with a small invoice. I had to actually start off with pro bono, doing things for free. But you know what that does? That starts to give you clients, starts to give you referrals. You know, people start to talk about how well you're doing. And then when you start to get clients, be humble, right? There's so many people who are great at what they do, but they're not humble. The moment someone is not humble, do you know what business does? Business moves away. Be able to work with people. Don't be the superstar, the director, the singer. When I get to his event, everyone must stop and get an autograph. Be able to speak and to work with people really well. And you know what? Business starts to come back to you. So treat people well. When you've got a client, make sure that you give them your full attention. Make sure that you put in 100% of your effort. Make sure that you're not late, you're always on time. Make sure when you leave that place, you've given them 100% of yourself. And you know what? That person will always be able to give you more work or to refer you to someone else.
Wow, awesome. That's nice. I really appreciate that. So, Matt, if people want to contact you, where can they get you?
Perfect. So my Instagram handle is The People's MC. You can directly message me there. I've got a website, which is www.matthewmakoni.co.za. I've also got a contact form there, and you can send me your contact, and I'll respond to you. I've got a calendar, which is available on my website, so you're able to see if I'm available for a wedding. You're able to see if I'm available for a corporate event as well, and yeah, I'll be able to connect with you.
Well, thank you so much for taking time to be with us in our studio. It was awesome to have you. And thank you for watching this particular program. We're looking to you joining us once again on our next episode. Thank you.